Okay, today we are going to be talking, myself, some of the key factors in reproductive soundness for sheep and goats, some economics for fertility from Jennifer Lutes, and the physiology behind profit from Dr. Stewart, and some winter small ruminants about applied advanced reproductive techniques on the farm by Dr. Acharya. So the idea is that we are going to spend 10, 12, no more than 15 minutes, each one of us. So in the way that we are going to leave some questions for you. So I will start mine. So some of the key factors in the reproduction soundness for sheep and goats that I want just to look like open mind is that the feeding is very important and that we are in a cool season grass and warm season grass, mainly here in the Midwest, but also you will have that even in the South, in the warm areas, even during the winter. Sometimes they use irrigated areas, and if you are in the north, you will have very much the cool season grasses all year round. But it's very important to be thinking in that. So when we think about reproduction, as you can see where the months are in blue, so you have here from August uh, to July and the next year. So you can have like the natural cycle, estrus and lambing, that generally the lambing or the kidding in goats are during the spring. So the breeding is October, November. So that is the natural, the most common, but also there's one that you can have in like a other times of the of the breeding during the spring and later on lambing and kidding to get a better prices in the market, because most of the people will be selling animals 3 months at the weaning time, and there will be a huge market. So you will be seeing a lot of these with economics that Jennifer Lutz will be presenting, and also it's very important, but also have to match all this reproduction with the availability of the feed during the year. So you have here the one season grass with long yield, the cool season grass, it will be better in the spring than in the fall. But also you have the hay feeding that generally is not very good. You have the annual and perennial legumes and the force and browse, and mainly for goats that you may be considering all these. So when you think in all the small ruminants farming production system, it's very important to be planning. So in the breeding soundness evaluation for rams and rams prior to breeding seasons, you will be seeing during the all the certification many things like this. So many of the external reproductive organs, the scrotal, the semen collections, the morphology of the spermatozoids, the concentrations, uh, what kind of analysis of blood samples collection, the health assessments, some of the thoracic and pelvic limbs and hooves, and the body condition score. So you will be having a specific talk about body condition score, but just I want to say that at the beginning of breeding season, it recommend to have a body condition score 3.5. The scale generally is from 1 to 5, where 1 is an emaciated animal and 5 is a very fatty, obese animal. So animals often, rams often fall below 3.5 after breeding season ending. But when you have a 3.5, so you should be working on that goal 4 weeks prior to start the breeding season. So you have here some of the figures, how to measure, and you will be learning that very well with Dr. Stewart in her presentation, I think it's in January. But the idea is that you may be in different parts of the body of the sheep or the ewe or the ram or the bug or the dog, you will be measuring that. Some of the questions that generally are, what are the difference between goats and a Jew? And also there are some difference when you are talking about dairy goats or dairy sheep also. So here there is some comparison of the number one, that is a very very animal that is very thin animal, or the condition 5 that is a fat animal, and also the idea of the number 3 that is the one that you want to have it. So the body condition scoring, the most used in US is a scale of 1 to 5, with 1 being emaciated sheep, 3 being sheep in average condition, and 5 being an obese sheep. Half scores are commonly used, like a 3, 3.5. Most sheep have body condition scores between 2 and 4. And used body condition scores will change throughout the production cycle. The 3 most important times to body condition score use are prior to breeding, late gestation, and weaning. So the nutrition has a significant impact on reproductive abilities, such semen production. If males are a body condition 3 are better reproduction performance that body condition stores 2 or 4. Rams, when turned in with use, their feed intake decreases, and to the degree of being like a lot of energy in the breeding the females. Rams and ram lambs show a dramatic body weight loss and consequently decrease in the body condition. This can lose between 10-15% of the body weight. Many of them, they don't eat enough during that time. So during a 45 breeding period, may be happening that. So just to remember that it's very important to be matching with the feeding, with the weather, and with the market, better price to be selling accordingly what you are selling. If you are for meat, so what will be the best prices that generally will be during the spring to be selling the winning animals. But probably like in February before like a late winter. And also to be thinking in the physiology of the animal, the normal cycle for the animals. So this is like a introduction just to be thinking the importance of reproduction and all the different activities that you should be considering to have a successful business. So now we are going to ask Jennifer to continue it. And I don't know if you can control the
No,
PowerPoint.
I don't think I can.
Okay, you
Mm-mm.
just tell me. Okay.
Okay. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and I appreciate you all joining us. It's a nice big crowd today. I do get to spend a few minutes talking about the economics of fertility, kind of demystifying the numbers behind it. Reproduction is often talked about in small ruminants, but we don't always break down what that means financially. And so that's kind of my goal today, is to make the economics simple and clear for you guys. I have 3 core ideas that I hope to share with you and that I hope will help you make some farm level decisions. Next slide, Homero. So I want to start with the first core idea that fertility economics, it's not magic. It's not stuff that we just throw in a hat and pull out some magic numbers. There's really nothing mysterious about why reproduction matters when it comes to the economics. It's super simple. Your fertility is going to be how many animals you have to sell at the end of the season. And so when we improve fertility, we can increase the total pounds that we have available to sell. And importantly, when those increases happen, when we increase fertility, we're not increasing acreage, we're not increasing fencing, we're not increasing labor. So essentially, we're not increasing those fixed costs on the farm. And what that means is that we get to spread those fixed costs across more head, which is going to be another part of our key drivers here. So fertility directly drives the revenue potential of the farm. It's essentially where income begins. But revenue is only one side of the profit equation. Profit also depends on cost, and fertility has a major influence there as well. So we're going to look at how fertility affects the cost side. Next slide. So strong fertility doesn't just increase revenue, it changes the cost of every animal that you produce. And that's kind of where I was going with spreading those fixed costs. So all the fixed costs are the same, whether you have one offspring or three from each ewe or doe. And when we have more offspring, we share those fixed costs. We actually lower our fixed cost on a per head basis. So every animal becomes less expensive to produce, and your overall efficiency of the farm improves. But here's a real important bit. Not every method of increasing fertility will be profitable for every farm. Every farm has its own revenue and cost structures. Operations that may sell in some lower value markets, think like local auctions or direct to meat or things like that, they have less flexibility in how much they can invest to improve their fertility on the farm. Contrarily, farms that sell into the high value markets, such as maybe some show markets or breeding stock markets or things like that, they often have more room to invest because each animal is worth more. And so that's why fertility has to be evaluated through the lens of balance, and it has to be evaluated on each farm. The right level of investment really depends on what your animals are worth when they leave the farm. And that's going to be different for every farm. So really brings us to the third key idea, and that's balance. Improving fertility usually requires some combination of feed, minerals, labor, healthcare, so on and so forth. If we invest, fertility suffers. If we overinvest, then we can easily spend more than we earn. The goal isn't maximum fertility, it's a profitable fertility. So the guiding principles here is pretty simple. The value of one more offspring must exceed the cost of producing one more offspring. That's really the economic sweet spot, and the reason that balance matters so much is because reproduction determines the very product that your farm brings to market. So we'll talk about what you're actually selling on the next slide. So you're not selling feed, you're not selling fencing, you're not selling time, you're selling your offspring, whether that's in the meat market, whether that's in, sharing animals for breeding stock to other farms, you're selling offspring. The offspring become your sales animals and your replacements for your farm. They also carry your genetics forward. And so the revenue side of the operation begins before conception. And that's what we're going to talk about a lot in this series. That's why the economics of reproduction matter, because fertility determines both the quantity and quality of the products that your farm brings to market. And if reproduction is your production system, then the natural next question becomes, what do we have control over? So on the next slide, we'll look at the management tools that influence fertility in a practical way. Fertility responds to management decisions, right? So hence the manager's toolbox. Some of the highest impact areas that a manager oversees include nutrition, body condition, health, parasites, genetics, culling, breeding season planning. These are all things that we have control over. There are other important areas to consider, such as record keeping, observation, making a marketing strategy, And technology is one of those tools, but it offers the best return only when the fundamentals are already strong. Fertility is really not random. It follows management decisions across the whole farm. And each of these tools are powerful in their own right, but none of them work in isolation. The farms that consistently achieve strong fertility combine tools and do not rely on just a single tool. And that's where the and or principle comes important on the next slide. So, one of the biggest misunderstandings in reproduction is the idea that one product or one practice will solve everything. In reality, fertility improves when the whole system works together. We've got nutrition and health, we've got genetics and management, we've got reproduction and economics. The farms that succeed in combining these practices instead of choosing between them are the ones that are going to be the most successful. Strong fertility is a result of integration, not isolation. And when we put all of these puzzle pieces together, biology, management, economics, the big picture becomes very clear. And so let's close with kind of some three big takeaways that I really want you to remember as we move through this reproduction certificate for the winter. Next slide, please, Homero. So the big message is increased fertility grows revenue, increased fertility improves efficiency, and fertility has to be balanced. Okay. When we understand that these economic principles, reproduction becomes purposeful and manageable, becomes a pathway to stronger profitability. And stronger profitability comes from increasing revenue while maintaining costs, or decreasing costs while maintaining revenue, or a balance of both, increasing revenue and decreasing costs. So with that in mind, I get to now pass the spotlight over to Dr. Jamie Stewart.
Gotta unmute myself. Thank you. So I'm going to take a step behind and kind of talk about what are the key factors behind making your profit that are affected by the physiology of the animal and understanding those dynamics. Go ahead to the next slide. So the objectives for this were to be able to better understand what estrus is and our ovulation dynamics, to identify causes of conception failure and early losses, and to use all this to apply synchronization and AI tools effectively. Next slide. So just to kind of give an overview of what things you should be thinking of, and some of this has kind of been touched on already by Dr. Salinas, is one, when we're thinking about our breeding stock, so we're thinking about our females that are of breeding age. So for our young females, this is the ones that we're breeding for the first time at about 2/3 of their mature body weight. But it's also our females that are obviously beyond that, and that we've been breeding for years. And then for our sire, determining, what sire we have, how many sires we're using, the number that we're going to have, the number of rams or bucks that we're going to use are going to depend on the number of females that we have, whether we're utilizing AI for some of those females versus just depending on live cover. And then that kind of goes on to that method of breeding of, are we using live cover only? Are we using AI only? Or are we doing a combination of both? Because those are all going to affect how we manage them breeding wise. Next slide. So why is choosing the right reproduction program so important? Is because you can't have production without reproduction. This is what I always tell my students. I think most of my extension things that I present, I always say this, because if you aren't making animals, then you don't have animals to be productive. You don't have lambs to sell at the end of it if you're not making them in the first place. Okay, slide. So starting at the beginning, what is the estrus cycle? So just kind of assuming we have a wide variety of backgrounds there on here, we've got a lot of people here. So I'm just starting at the beginning, I apologize for people who might be well versed in this. But this is a predictable reproductive event that begins with estrus, which is what we identify as our notable heats, and it ends with the subsequent estrus. And the reason why we calculate it that way is because when they're in heat, it's the most obvious signs that we can find. So when we're counting from one heat to the other, that gets us through an entire estrus cycle, which I'll take you through in the next slide. So in goats, this duration should be approximately 21 days, whereas in sheep, it's going to occur about 17 days. And these are going to continuously occur. So in a goat, every 21 days, and a sheep every 21 days throughout the female's life. The interesting thing about sheep and goats is that it can be interrupted not only by pregnancy and nursing, as it does in other species, but also by season. Again, as was already touched on earlier, it's highly influenced by the seasonality. And so in this this opportunity for breeding occurs indefinitely while they're in season, but then will go away when they're out of season. Okay, next slide. So this is the stages that we have of the estrus cycle. So like I mentioned, estrus, which is going to be the briefest period that we have here, and you can see it there, is around day 0. And like I said, we call it day 0 because it's the easiest thing to identify. They're riding each other. If we've got a teaser out there with markers on them, or even a ram out there with markers on it, they're going to get marked during that time. And like I said, it's going to be the briefest period. It's when their estrogen's at its highest, and that's why they call it estrus. And then that's when ovulation is going to occur shortly after they start showing signs of heat. And then after that ovulation period, they enter a period called metestrus. So met meaning middle. So it's between that estrus and then the diestrus period that I'll explain in a second. So the metestrus period is a transitional period. So you see that peak of estrogen that I said was crucial for them showing signs of estrus, that starts to go down, and then the solid orange line that you see there, that's going up, that's labeled P4, so that's progesterone. So that's going up while the estrogen's going down. And so at the site where that ovulation occurred, all of that tissue is going to remodel, and it's going to start producing progesterone. And progesterone is crucial for maintaining pregnancy. So at this time period, in this metestrus period, the body is starting to prepare itself for a potential pregnancy, because obviously with estrus should have come breeding and introduction of the semen and fertilization, and now an embryo by about day 6 or 7. So you see we're getting into the diestrus period there. That's when that fertilized oocyte or that embryo is going to be entering the uterus. So, and that's when you see it coincides with the time where progesterone is at its highest period. So, and during that period, it should be implanting, and then it's going to do some recognition of pregnancy. So that basically the fetus is going to say, "Hi, I'm here." And that's when it should trigger the body to maintain that high progesterone. If there's no fetus there, then the body gets a signal that progesterone is not needed anymore because there's no embryo there. So then the source of progesterone is going to go away. And so then you see that brings us into our second transitional period, which is proestrus. And that's where progesterone is going down. And then we're coming back to a period where that estrogen is starting to go up, because we're going to be coming into estrus again. Okay, on to the next slide. So all of this, and I'm going to try to keep this as simple as possible because we'll go into a lot more details later. So the hypothalamus in the brain is what's producing something called gonadotropin releasing hormone, or GnRH, and that is known as the master regulator of reproduction. So the GnRH will then go to the anterior lobe of the pituitary gland. So that's what's labeled as AL there. And it's going to trigger release of 2 really important hormones. So these are called luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone. So the follicle stimulating hormone is going to act on that developing follicle. So this is when we're in that proestrus period that I mentioned, and it's going to promote growth of the developing follicle. And so the follicle is the fluid-filled structure on the ovary that contains that egg or that oocyte. And the follicle stimulating hormone is going to allow that and stimulate it to grow. And then what happens as that follicle grows, it's going to produce more and more estrogen. So in correlation with its size, the estrogen is going to increase, and that's what's taking us into that estrus period. And once that estrogen reaches a certain concentration that they're in the estrus or heat, then that's going to trigger the luteinizing hormone to release in really large quantities. And that's ultimately what's going to trigger that follicle to ovulate. Okay, next slide. And why is this why is this so important? It's because GnRH is the master regulator of reproduction, as I mentioned on the previous slide, and it's also very much influenced by photoperiod or day length. So a decreased day length, next, is going to decrease firing of retinal nerves, which are detected from the eye. Next. And then that's going to decrease excitation from the superior cervical ganglion. So that's just another area up in the brain. And that's going to decrease inhibition on the pineal gland, which is also up there in the brain area. And then from there, that will cause increase of melatonin production. So see, I have highlighted the most important parts of that are, as you get a decrease in day length, you're going to get an increase in melatonin production. And that makes sense if we think about what we do in humans, where we use melatonin to allow us to try to sleep. So taking melatonin at night to help us sleep better, it's because melatonin is naturally released in the nighttime. So that's nothing that should be too unusual. And then next, click. So with that increase in melatonin production, and this part is what's specific to our sheep and our goats, is that GnRH production itself is going to increase when melatonin production is increased. So that's why they only cycle during the short day. I saw that question kind of pop through there really quick, is that So now that you kind of know like the basics of how the seasonality occur, I want to talk just briefly. And again, we're going to expand upon this in some other future talks. So I'm trying to keep this as brief as possible. So there's 4 stages of reproductive failure. One is failure to ovulate, which is usually an issue on the female. There's failure of fertilization, which can be a female or a male problem. Embryonic death, which is normally a female problem. And then fetal death, which is also usually a female problem at that point. And these can all range from anything at like a physiological cause. It can be anatomical, it can be inherited, and it can be infectious. And as we go through this program, we will talk about all of those, so I won't cover them today. Next. So, but just kind of the most briefly and most common things is 1, failure to ovulate or them not coming into heat. So we can see that with them being out of season. And that might vary a little bit by what synchronization protocol we use and our breed selection. So there's some breeds that respond much better to out-of-season breeding than others. And there's some synchronization protocols that work better for out-of-season breeding than in-season breeding. For example, cedars are required if we are doing out-of-season breeding. So I've got a picture there of what that cedar looks like that produces progesterone. You can't just give them luteolized out-of-season and expect them to come into heat. It doesn't work. So picking a synchronization protocol is crucial. For in-season, when they are in season, there are certain pathologies. So the pictures I have here, the top one is a uterus that has fluid in it, but no babies. So that's what we call a hydrometra or a mucometra, and occurs most frequently in dairy breed goats, but we do see it in most breeds of sheep and goats occasionally. And then cystic ovarian disease, which is the picture that's below. So on the left, that little black structure with a bunch of little lobes to it, that's actually an ovary that has a bunch of follicles on it that will not ovulate. So that's cystic ovarian disease. And then neoplasia is another one that we might consider seeing in some of our older animals. Toxic plant exposure can also cause some irregularities in cycles. So if you're seeing that your animals are not cycling on a normal basis, if they're having more frequent cycles, sometimes certain plants that are exposing them to estrogen can cause that. And then anytime you can have nutritional or genetic issues that can cause reproductive failure. Next slide. So this is just the cedar insert I was just putting on here. And again, we'll talk about this more in some future talks, but I just wanted to put it on here to show you that the actual directions for it are to induce estrus during seasonal anestrus. So this is something that if you're trying to do out of season breeding that you do have to invest in most of the time. Okay, next slide. And so other things, failure of fertilization. So this could be an issue with male semen quality. It can also be an issue of heat stress. For the female, it affects the oocyte or the egg quality. For the male, it affects their semen quality directly. And nutrition, same thing. It affects both oocyte and sperm quality. And any of those can affect failure or can affect fertilization rates. So in the picture I have, there are some sperm cells from a slide I have, and they all have a little swelling in their right by their head of the sperm cells. And those are abnormal and usually caused by immaturity. So sometimes we'll see that in our young males. And as far as embryonic and fetal death, there are different toxic plants to be concerned about. But more commonly, we start to see at that point abortifacients, mostly infectious ones. So Chlamydophila, Toxoplasma, Campylobacter are ones to be considering around that time point. Next. So, and like I said, I wanted to keep this brief for our 12 minutes here, and we're going to expand a lot more on this. I've got a lot of talks coming up, so we will talk more about many of those things. But in summary, preparation is key to have a successful breeding season. So one is ensuring that your animals are in appropriate body conditions. So Dr. Salinas talked about that a little bit at the beginning. So making sure that we have a nutrition plan, not just for breeding, but also for gestation, because keeping those females in appropriate plane is crucial all throughout pregnancy to make sure that they're not prone to getting things like pregnancy toxemia later on. Plan for pre-breeding vaccinations if needed. So I talked about some of those infectious diseases briefly that can have an impact on late gestation. And so if we have issues with those in our herds, then we want to make sure that we're vaccinating to protect from that. Utilize appropriate synchronization protocols. So knowing if we're in or out of season. And also some of these will vary based on if we're using live cover or versus artificial insemination. So having an idea going into the breeding season, what types of program you're going to be using can help you when you're working with your veterinarian to figure out how you're going to synchronize these animals. And then always schedule a breeding soundness examination for your male. I've had a lot of situations where I'm preg checking for somebody and they have a new male, they never had him checked and have really disappointing breeding rates. So the biggest thing you can do to prevent a disappointing breeding outcome is to make sure that you schedule a breeding soundness exam for your male and that he is sound. And then the other thing that can be useful is monitoring your heat cycles. So you can do this with marking harnesses or just checking their behavior. Behavioral is a little bit easier in goats than in sheep, but marking harnesses either with a ram or with a teaser can be useful to know if you're having any irregulars in the heat cycles. And I think next one should just be questions, which I think we'll get to towards the end.
There was a quick question, and I think we'll go ahead and take it because Mohan's computer also had a restart.
Yeah, he will doing here on my computer. He's here in my office. But go ahead with the question.
So there was one question asking if you could stimulate estrus with oral melatonin.
So hypothetically, yes, but remembering that these are ruminants, so that most things that you put orally is going to get degraded in their rumen. So there's very few studies out there that look at oral melatonin specifically. There are melatonin implants that tend to work a little bit better to bring them into estrus. And again, so for one, there's no approved melatonin implants in the US. There are some that are available commercially that you can buy and give to your animals, but they are not actually approved. So use them at your own risk for since these are food producing species. So and those seem to have a little bit better luck bringing them into heat. They work really well to improve fertility in the males. But you can also use them in conjunction. I see someone asking about added lighting. You can use them in conjunction with lighting programs or with hormonal synchronization to improve your breeding program. And we will talk about all of those a little bit more later on.
Do I need to say something?
No, you will be.
Nothing like technical difficulties.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So my presentation will be on applying advanced reproductive techniques on farm animals. Next. So basically, I will be covering parts about semen collection methods, use of semen extenders, the dose that we use in different AI techniques, estrus synchronization, and artificial insemination in sheep and goats. Next. The most commonly used semen, so for semen collection, the most commonly used is electroejaculator. There are positive and negative parts of using electroejaculator. We will have a good amount of volume, but chances of mixing with urine is high. And also the quality is low as compared to other semen collection methods. Next slide. So this is how they use for semen collection using ejaculator. Next slide. So this is the method for semen collection using artificial vagina. I used those during my graduate school. So basically, you need to have a female in heat and then male for this method of semen collection. It's a little bit technical part, but you will have opportunity to get high volume and high quality semen by this method. Next slide. So these are the glass vials. I used that during my grad school. These are developed by USDA Agriculture Research Station out in Idaho back in 2001. A lot of people don't really use this, but this is the most handy these vials that you insert inside the female in heat and let the ram mount it. So even you can collect many times in 10 minutes, like 5-6 times in 10 minutes. So this is the if you need high quality of semen from the precious ram for many doses to straws, so this would be the best one, but this is the least used one. If any one of you want to use this, I have a dimension and the company from where you can order these glass vials. Next slide. So this is how we insert glass vagina in use females in heat. So there is a crocodile alligator attached to these vials, which you can hook in the wool of the sheep, and then you can collect the semen. So again, this is the best method and the least used method for the semen collection. Next slide. So semen analysis. There are 3 different techniques that are commonly used for semen analysis. Microscope, which is an easy method. So you can observe under 4x power. You will not have opportunity to see the actual semen cells, but the wave of motion, the sparkling that you can see under the microscope, that you can tell that semen the sperm cells are viable, and then that is the easy that you can do at the farm level. The other two techniques, the ice palm is one of the iPad type of things that you can hook under the camera, and then you will have several different parameters for the sperm kinetics, like progressive motility, curvilinear motility. There are several, like 9 to 12 different motions, sperm kinetics that you can evaluate with ice palm. Ice palm is relatively cheap, portable, but computer-assisted semen analyzer. This is like a big computer desktop type of computers that is hooked up close to the semen analyzer machine. It again gives the different 9 to 12 different parameters regarding sperm kinetics, and that way you can tell the quality of semen in the animals. Both ice palm and computer-assisted semen analyzer, you need to dilute the semen to the required concentration to observe the high quality of the semen cells. Next slide. Okay, so the semen extension and storage. So there is a huge difference between goat and sheep. In goat, you will have good luck with the freezing and frozen thaw, that kind of like a cattle, pretty much not exactly like cattle, but pretty much similar to that. But sheep is way different. When you freeze the sheep semen less than like in nitrogen, freezing in nitrogen, or less than 0°, they after a frozen thaw, they lose the quality. So they don't do very good if you do artificial insemination, like a vaginal insemination or cervical insemination. Only some intrauterine deposition might work, but in general, ram semen that they don't freeze well. So they usually are stored at 4 to 5 degrees Celsius or at 15 degrees Celsius like boar semen. And then before you freeze, you need to have at least 40% motility before freezing. So these are the criteria. And for the sheep, milk elk yolk extenders are the most commonly used semen extenders. You can use additional like ethylene glycol or PHE, phenylalanine, hypotaurin, or other chemicals to make it more motile after freezing. Basically, semen extenders are the most commonly used extenders. You can use trace-based extenders and test-based extenders. CJ2, the one commonly used for freezing embryos. So those are the different type of extenders commonly used in sheep and goat semen extension. Next slide. So again, this is one of the most important, like how much do you need per dose for the semen? So if you are doing intrauterine or laparoscopic AI, then you need a low dose. Even in a ram semen, frozen semen, if the motility is 19%, like a 30%, less than 40%, you will have good luck in getting success rate with the intrauterine AI. So this is the people that does AI in sheep, they goes with the laparoscopic AI. Transcervical AI, it's pretty much difficult in sheep. You can do in goats. In sheep, during the season, you will have a better luck than during the off season. Like during the season, even a vaginal AI, some people, they do vaginal AI, which is easy. Transcervical AI, not very easy with the anatomy in sheep cervix. In goats, you might probably, yes. And intrauterine would be the most successful, requires highly technical expertise. Low doses works, even low doses, you'll have luck in getting the success for the pregnancy. Next slide. So we already talked about this. This is how we use seeders in female for synchronizing the estrus. So this is just a method how you insert seeders in females. Next slide. So this is one of the method for estrus detection, like using crayons with a marking harness. This might help to track which animal, which female got bred and which animal has not. This is just a tracking method for the cross reference and to find the lambing days. So this is just extra confirmation for the pregnancy. Sorry, for the breeding. Next slide. This is one of the picture that I took during from my graduate school. So in artificial insemination in sheep. So in sheep, you need a speculum to open wide, and there are like 6 different types of cervix in female use. It's really hard to get through the cervix, but if you can deposit little bit inside the cervix, then high chances that you'll have luck with the breeding. So artificial insemination in sheep, not very easy, but if you are doing with a high precious rams with a high genetic merit, then it will be worthy. Next slide. So again, it's not that the AI gun that are commonly used in cattle can be used in sheep. No, that's not right. So these are some of the types of AI guns that I took a picture long ago, 5-7 years ago. So they can get through at least some millimeter inside the cervix in sheep. Once you can get at least deposit in the openings of the cervix, then very high chances that you get bred. Again, the morphological structure of sheep, it's very, very different. And it's not same in the sheep. In the sheep, there are different types of morphological structure of cervical opening. So 6 different type of structure. You will absolutely have no idea which type of structures would come in when you do the AI. And these are small AI guns that you may have luck to get through cervix. Next slide. I guess that's all. Again, I will be there. Feel free to ask any questions thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Acharya.
Okay, I will rename myself. Yeah, it's the first time in 6 years having webinars that without my consent, they restart the system. It's crazy. I mean, wow. Okay, so, but we are here. Thank you. Thank you, Jennifer, for taking care
Thank
of.
you. Thanks for the audience for reminding me to restart the recording too. We only got a little bit that wasn't recorded.
Yeah, yeah. So the first thing is thank you so much for all the people that have come, and also for the questions that they may coming over there. So if you want to read some of those questions, Jennifer, please.
Happy to, yeah. So the first question, how many hours after cedar removal is it recommended to inseminate using the laparoscopic and transcervical technique?
I don't know, Jamie, can you answer that one, or we wait for Mohan or Acharya?
I can answer. So the answer is it depends if you are doing fresh semen or frozen semen, and what protocol you're using. For the most part, most protocols, if you're using frozen semen, want you to do about 60 hours after you remove the cedar. And then if you're using fresh semen, you can actually pull it back to about 48 hours afterwards. And that's because the frozen semen doesn't last quite as long as the fresh semen, because of the freezing thaw process. It's a little bit more compromised. So you're trying to get it in there as close to that time of ovulation as possible. Whereas with the fresh semen or extended semen, you can push it back to about 48 hours because it'll last a little bit longer in the reproductive tract.
We did have a question earlier too about showing the difference between, or telling the difference between intrauterine and transcervical AI.
I think Mohan's talking, but he's muted.
Sorry, Dr. Stewart is here. The intrauterine is the laparoscopic AI, so you will directly deposit in the uterus. You need a technical expertise on that. Special equipment is needed on that. For the intrauterine, for the what is the another one? Sorry. So transcervical AI, you can, so you go through the cervix. Again, it's possible in goat, but not possible in sheep. I mean, at least with my experience.
Thanks. So we have another question about finding companies that offer semen for rams and billies.
Do you want to answer, Dr. Stewart, or I can answer?
Oh, there's a few of them out there. I know one of the big ones is the reproduction specialty group. That's a big one that I can think of off the top of my head. Do you have a few more in your head from your area?
So if you are in Missouri or in Arkansas, Smart Reproduction, they do training and they sell the equipments needed for the reproduction. So they are located in Jonesboro, Arkansas, and they do in this area in Missouri as well.
We also have Transova in Missouri that does some AI work with sheep and goats as well.
Transova does a lot with cattle. I'm not 100% sure if they do in sheep and goat.
They do some with sheep and goat, yes.
There are lots of companies that does cattle. They are big companies making a lot of benefit, but sheep and goat very limited. Few companies, again, not widely used.
So I think we had a follow-up. Says, am I incorrect in the assumption that intrauterine, while needing expert application, is a higher rate of success than intercervical?
Okay, so I mean, it depends on several different factors, not even a single. Laparoscopic AI, there is no more success than directly deposit in uterine horn than entering through the cervix. So it's an easy case, but not a single factor would play on that. I would let Dr. Stewart add anything if you want.
I was just gonna say sometimes it'll depend on your the semen quality or the semen type too. So if we're talking specifically about frozen thawed semen, the laparoscopic intrauterine is going to give you your highest success rates for that. Versus anytime you put anything in the cervix. Now, if you're using fresh semen, you probably might not see a whole lot of improvement doing lap AI versus putting it into the cervix, just because the semen is usually a higher dose and not quite as compromised in the motility parameters.
Dr. Stewart, am I right to assume that in future presentations we're going to have some more photos of cervical anatomy and the differences between sheep and goats?
I know I have at least a picture that I found from a sheep. I can try to acquire one from a goat. We have a anatomy or necropsy lab here, so I can ask them to be on the lookout and try to maybe get one from a goat. I don't know if I have one, or I can try to find one by then. I know I at least have one of a sheep. Yes.
I kind of figured that'd be part of it going forward. And somebody asked about
cervix anatomy is different. I see that question. The cervix anatomy is different. Sheep tend to have like 7 or 8 cervical rings, whereas goats are closer to like 4. That's why it's easier to do to get into the uterus through the cervix in a goat than it is in a sheep.
Yeah. How does that compare to cows?
Well, cows, it's easier to, so cows, it's about 3 or 4 cervical rings,
Gotcha.
the same as a goat, but because we can do transrectal palpation on the cows, that's how we're more easily able to get the AI gun into the uterus, is because we can actually physically hold the cervix through the rectum and manipulate it around that AI gun to get it into the uterus. Whereas with small ruminants, we're relying just being on the outside and trying to, work it through.
Trying to chase it around in there. Okay, next question. How many years can you get birth rates out of hair sheep? And I assume they're asking kind of the stability of hair use on the farm, and how long are they good at producing babies?
I don't know if I have a direct answer for that one. I mean, I've seen them pretty aged, but I don't know if anybody else has any direct answer for it.
I will try. They would start from 7-month old, breeding starting from 7-month old. Again, this might not be the oldest one, but I saw some sheep close to 10 years.
So I think generally in budgets, I plan for about 7 years when I'm doing economics, is that stability that we're placing everybody, by 7 years or 8 years, really, keeping them around for 7. I'm trying to scroll through some of the questions here. So what would you recommend for does that have proved very difficult to catch in estrus? They don't show any outer signs of heat.
That's where, and I see somebody else has recommended that using a teaser can be helpful for those, or just utilizing if you're doing AI, just utilizing fixed time AI, where you basically set it up so that you don't have to look for heat.
Yeah, and Jeff, I'm not sure what you mean by that. The KW, how many and at what cost? So if you don't mind kind of iterating on that a little bit. Do you guys have any recommendations on where producers can attend classes on AI and learning how to do AI?
Probably we are going to have an AI class next GOT Expo at Sedalia by the end of May. So probably we are going to have one class there. We can plan a class there. Maybe talking with Rochelle Gates. That will be for GOTS. Yeah.
Can I add on that one? So the Smart Repro is offering classes early December. So best would be reach out Smart Repro located in Jonesboro, Arkansas. That would be the best earliest possible thing.
Thanks, Mohan. Can you lap AI sheep more than once? If so, do we have any issues with any decreases in success rates or concerns regarding scar tissue?
It's definitely a concern over time, but if the animal's appropriately restrained, the procedure is pretty benign, so it doesn't always occur. So if the animal, suddenly busts through the sedation and thrashes around, you're probably more at risk for scar tissue, but otherwise they are usually inseminated several years over time and can do just fine.
All right. How about if a ewe breeds when its body composition isn't ideal, does it permanently impact the ewe?
If we're talking about a ewe that's under conditioned, it could, I guess, both ways. If it goes under conditioned or over conditioned, it not necessarily permanently impacts the ewe, but it will have a significant impact on how she does in the late gestation period, which when we talk about things like pregnancy toxemia that can be caused if they're either under conditioned or over conditioned, that could permanently impact because it can lead to death if it's not caught quickly. So, but as far as like long-term effects, like if you're able to get it under control, then there shouldn't be too many long-term effects, but it's more so just that effect in late gestation that I'd be most concerned about.
I will add one point on that. So if they are lower in body condition, chances of having multiple fetuses is less.
Right, right. And then so, I don't know how much you guys work in epigenetics, but I find epigenetics really interesting and how, the world during fetal development and what that fetus is going through can really affect that fetus and the next potential generations of animals from that particular animal. And I don't know that we're getting into that in this winter series, but it's some pretty cool stuff anyways.
Yeah.
Um,
I just wanted to say that there are a lot of things that all the attendees are sharing about tips, idea, comments. So I encourage all the attendees to be watching uh, all these comments over there. And I think we are over time. So I think many of these questions will be answered through the different webinars that we are going to have in the following months. So uh, I want to share, I'm using this, Jennifer, now.
yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, the following classes, November 24, we are going to have a very good talk from Dr. Stewart about reproductive anatomy and physiology. 1 hour, 45 minutes. And later on December 1st, genetic selection for fertility and performance for Dr. Philip Sponkenberg from the Virginia Maryland College of Veterinary Medicine. And after that, again, Dr. Jamie Stewart, Advanced Reproductive Management for dogs specifically. Uh, then December 15, the reproductive management for bucks and rams. And we are going to have a break during the winter for 3 Mondays. And later on, we are going to have from January 12 to February 23, a very interesting talks about, we are going to have a panel, discussion about reproduction. We are going to have a specific January 19 body condition, scoring a reproductive performance from Dr. Jamie Stewart. Also from Dr. Stewart, testicular measurements, ultrasounds, assessments. We are going to have a specific talk from Dr. Yolanda Borton, uh, uh, artificial insemination practice. We are going to have an embryo transfer. It's not confirmed yet, the speaker. And again, we are going to have from Dr. Jessica Cowley from Virginia Tech University, neonatal care survival from conception to kid lamb. And by the very end, very important, by Jennifer Lutes, the economics of reproductive performance in small ruminants certificates, all the things that we're retaking for all the certifications. So I just want to say that we are so thankful for all of you that you have joined today. We are going to try to keep in touch because it's 160 people. And all your comments you can send through email to any of us. And also, I was saying that we were making like a raffle of 2 books. I think because you are a lot of, so I think we are going to make a raffle of 5 books, okay? So that you have a later chance to get one. So for the people that came and left over there your name and the state, we are going to make a raffle. And next Monday, we are going to say which ones were the winners. So we don't want to take more of your time. We want to remain 1 hour from 4 to 5 Central Time. And I just want to say thank you. A last thought of each one of you, Jennifer, Dr. Stewart, Mohan. 5 seconds.
I just want to say thanks for everybody being here.
Dr. Stewart.
Yeah, thank you. And I look forward to hopefully answering a lot more questions in the next few weeks.
Yeah, thank you all. I really enjoyed today's session. Thank you, Dr. Stewart and Jennifer, Dr. Salinas.
Okay, well, thank you so much. Have a good, very good week, and we see you next Monday.